Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Marvel Legends Hawkeye, the Dark Hawkeye, that just came out, part of the Odin wave. It's at first glance a pretty cool figure, and for the most part, even at second glance, it's a pretty cool figure. I like some of the things they did with this guy a whole lot. And of course there are some things that they cheaped out on that I have to point out as being no-nos. But definitely a decent Hawkeye figure nonetheless. He stands about 6¼ inches tall, so pretty decent scale. It's pretty much the Bucky cap body. The legs, upper body, right arm, all Bucky cap. Left arm, surprisingly enough, is a Bucky cap shoulder with a Winter Soldier arm connected to it, literally, from the movie Winter Soldier. They just molded it in purple plastic and then painted, well, gave him a blue glove. So, definitely not supposed to have a robotic arm, this Hawkeye. I guess they did that to replace any texturing that they would have had to do if they made a new sculpt. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's still a movie Winter Soldier robot arm on Hawkeye, so it's a little irritating. They did add this nice, really nicely sculpted, whatever you call that thing that Hawkeye has. Unfortunately, mine doesn't fit quite right. I think a little hot water will probably fix that, but if you pull it down, you can see that it can fit properly. If you pull it down, it takes a little bit of force. I don't know if they're all like this or not, of course, but I'm going to try to heat it up and see if that'll work. But if you pull it down and put it in place, it actually works really well. It looks good. I think it's a cheap way for them to give him a whole new sculpt on his torso, and it looks good, so I'm perfectly happy with that. The scale mail looks nice. It's a nice purple, the sculpted parts with these little patterns on here. Everything looks pretty good, so I like that a lot. The head sculpt, it's still a little blocky, but it's not nearly as blocky as some of the other ones, so it doesn't look like Captain America in a Hawkeye hood, so I like that. It looks good. All sculpted details look good. The eye paint, not so good, but it's not horrible, so that's alright. They didn't sculpt the sleeve. I'll let it slide, I guess. It would have been nice, but no big deal. It's painted well enough that it's okay. Skin tones look good. The arm is light blue, though, compared to the torso, so that stands out a little bit. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be all one color. This is a lot lighter than this. That's a little disappointing, but it's not horrible. Boots are molded in purple, standard Bucky cap boots. Somehow, this one doesn't want to connect, so I don't know if there's just an extra nib of plastic in that joint somewhere, but it's got a decent gap in it. I'm going to have to try to fix that. Not a huge deal. The arm is molded in a really bright, maybe you can't tell on camera, but in person, it almost looks translucent, and I think it might be partially. It doesn't quite match the rest of the purple, so it stands out a little bit. But it's really not as bad as I thought it was going to be, so I'm going to let it slide, I think. The Bucky or the Winter Soldier arm, I think it'll be okay. He does come with this, which is a modified version of the Avengers Hawkeye quiver. We've got a whole bunch of arrows that are actually painted fairly well. I mean, I know it's just white, but they did a decent job with it. Unfortunately, it's still hollow, which makes it pretty ugly. Luckily, most of it's going to be hidden by the figure, so it's not a real big deal that it's hollow. I know a lot of people really hate that. I wish it wasn't hollow, or at least visibly hollow, but it's not so bad that I'm going to really say that's a problem. It's okay. And then we get the movie Hawkeye Bow again, which unfortunately molded plastic, no paint detail, and no arrow, so the posing options are going to be fairly limited with this guy. He does hold the bow much better in his right hand. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to hold it in his left and draw with his right, but I could be wrong. You guys can correct me on that if that's the case. I don't know about Dark Hawkeye. I'm pretty sure Dark Hawkeye is also a righty, but I don't know. This hand will hold the bow, but just not quite as good. It doesn't hold it quite as well. So, I don't know. It's a standard Bucky cap articulation, so you guys really don't need me to run through that again. I'll post some photos here at the end so you guys can see. Ooh, that's something I just noticed. His hips are wobbly. That's unusual. So the design for these, we can take this off, by the way, so I'll do that. The head pops off. So I'll take this off so I can show you, since I just noticed this, and this will be a moment for me to talk to you guys about the engineering a little bit. These hips have a peg that goes straight through, and it's kind of got a polygonal, I don't know how many faces it has, tetrahedron. I don't know. It's got a whole bunch of angles on it. A little peg that goes into the hips, and that's how the hips move around. So that peg is somehow loose. I've never seen that on one of these figures from the factory. They can become loose, but not like that normally. So that's a little odd. So watch out for that. He might have jiggly hip syndrome. That might be a common thing. I don't know. Keep an eye out for that, I guess, and cross your fingers and hope that you don't have that issue. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and post some photos here so you can see them in action. And then I think you guys should subscribe so that you can see... Wow, that's not going back on easily. So you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.